Thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasairos. I talk about politics, sports, and entertainment to keep you well-rounded what's going on around the world. If you don't like hearing the truth, definitely don't tune into this channel. So let's get started today. You know, I don't know what it is with Patrick Bet-David and his podcast and his obsession with Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith is always on the PBD podcast, and they're encouraging him to run for president. It's an absolute complete joke. Patrick Bet-David, I have a question for you and your entire staff. Do any of you watch ESPN at all? Do any of you watch Stephen A. Smith race bait 24 hours a day on ESPN? He has single-handedly destroyed ESPN. Him and racist Ryan Clark, they have made ESPN unwatchable. They have made ESPN's ratings go in the toilet because of all their race baiting 24 hours a day. This is the same moron, Stephen A. Smith, that wants you to believe that the NFL is racist because Shedeur Sanders slipped in the NFL draft to the 5th round. You know, the NFL of all places. He wants you to believe that the NFL doesn't like a confident black man that wears gold chains. This is the effing moron that you think should be running for president of the United States or encouraging him to run. He can't. And here's another thing. Every time I hear Vinny say, oh, he's the best ever to do it. No, do you watch sports? Do you watch ESPN ever? Because he is by far one of the worst sports commentators ever in the history of sports commentators. He does nothing but scream and yell and race bait 24 hours a day. And if you wanted to pick the best black sports commentator that ever worked on ESPN, that's Stuart Scott, someone that Stephen A. Smith couldn't hold his jockstrap. He has no class like Stuart Scott. He has no integrity like Stuart Scott. And he is not the professional that Stuart Scott is. So every time I hear, Vinny or Adam, and they just blindly throw compliments to Stephen A. Smith, oh, I know you're the best ever to do it. What the F are you talking about? Do you even watch ESPN? Do you have a history of watching ESPN? Okay. And if you wanted to pick a black commentator that was the best commentator ever on ESPN, that would be Stuart Scott. It's not even close. And you could probably arguably say that Stuart Scott, forget race aside, is one of the probably the greatest ESPN commentators ever. You know why? Because he stuck to sports and he had class and passion and he didn't race bait 24 hours a day like the loser Stephen A. Smith and racist Ryan Clark. So let's jump into the video. I love when they all of a sudden now Stephen A. Smith is on here and he's talking about how Trump is petty and how Trump is a narcissist. Don't you love when narcissists call other people narcissists? Don't you love when the most pettiest people on the entire planet call other people petty? Because that's exactly what Stephen A. Smith is. He is a complete fraud and a joke. He lies for a living. That's all he does is lie and race bait 24 hours a day. That's how he makes a living. And for some reason, I'm very confused how Patrick Beck did. The new grift is from even unlikely conservatives is Stephen A. Smith should run for president. Yeah, really? Based on what? Oh, he's going to sit down with Putin and handle world problems? Give me an effing break.
I don't want to hear about pardons from Trump based on who he likes or who's complimentary to him. You're the commander-in-chief. If you believe there's a viable case to pardon somebody, make your call. If you believe there's not, make your call. But it shouldn't be predicated on, he was very nice to me. He's always very good to me. And
very nice things.
He's very nice things.
He's the greatest, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Adam with his cringe impersonations because he's never prepared to talk about anything of substance on the show. He has no credibility whatsoever. All of a sudden now he's a big Trumper. I guess he got a nose job too, so I'm sure he'll be even stupider now.
I remember when he was at the NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists Conference, and Rachel Scott, who's an outstanding young reporter for ABC, she was up there hosting the event, and she went right into it asking him a question. And his exact words were, that might be one of the nastiest questions. You didn't even say hello, how are you? And I just cracked up laughing, you know what I'm saying? Because you didn't say hello. So when he came on News Nation, I said, Hello, Mr. President. Hello, Mr.
Oh, and at the beginning of this, it's too long to do the whole thing. Stephen A. Smith is like, I grew up on the streets of Queen. No, he didn't. He grew up in a middle class household. He's just he can't make it a day without lying because he's so full of shit.
But you get respect.
Exactly. Well, not just that, but I'm just saying, I understand what you're saying.
That's how you treat people.
That's how you treat people, but I'm just like,
So you should.
That's what you focused on was my point. I say all of that to say so much about him. Elijah Cummings, God rest his soul, former representative out of Maryland. Well, Trump, he passes away. You can't even say my condolences. He was never nice to me. What? Like, come on, man. I mean, that's the kind of stuff about him that drives me crazy.
Pettiness.
Because it's petty.
Wow, Adam and Stephen A. Smith, of all people, calling President Trump petty. They're the two most pettiest human beings on the planet. This is like all the people that throw around the word narcissist and then the biggest narcissist on the planet. It's a complete joke. But Adam and Stephen A. Smith are complete jokes.
And this ain't something to be petty about. I want to remind everyone, listen, if Diddy's innocent of sex trafficking and racketeering, those are federal charges, very, very serious. Okay, if you found innocent, God bless you, live the rest of your life. We saw that video with you beating your girl.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no coming back from that.
Nope.
We heard testimony that your own defense didn't deny, where not only were sexual acts taking place with sex workers as well as yourself urinating in her mouth. You're not coming back from that. You might have people that may be committed to convicting him just because they said, I'll give a damn what the charge is. His ass got to go to jail. It's possible with a jury. They can tell you, we think you proved your case. They might not think that. But because your behavior, your acts were so egregious, they said, hell with this. I remember years ago, guys, when I saw a video of R. Kelly, and R. Kelly was having sex with clearly an under.
You know what the problem I have with Stephen A. Smith is saying right now? He wants you to believe that he didn't know what Puff Daddy was doing for the last 40 years and he didn't know what R. Kelly was doing. Of course he knew. And he had a platform to talk about it and he chose not to. I'm not going to get into whether I think Puffy's being it doesn't matter. I'm talking about his platform, right? Mr. I talk about everything. Mr. I'm courageous. Mr. I'm pillar of the community and I'm self-righteous and all that other crap. You didn't know he's in the inner circle of celebrities in Hollywood. You want me to believe that he didn't know what Puff Daddy was up to? Of course he did. But he'll pretend like, he's just finding out about it now and he's shocked and he's surprised. And if he's guilty, he should go to jail. Well, how come you didn't speak out about it for the last 40 years, Stephen A. Smith? You know why? Because you're full of it.
Aged girl. The first words out of my mouth is, there's going to be a prosecutor in his ass within the week. And third words out of my mouth was, I bet you it's a black one.
Oh, God.
Because that was a young black girl. And
I know, because no white prosecutor would ever bring justice for a black female, right? Right, Stephen A? Just leave it. This is what he does. That it has to be a black. This is why I can't stand him. This is why ESPN is unbearable and unwatchable. And that's why their ratings are in the toilet bowl. And racist Ryan Clark and Stephen A. Smith have cost ESPN trillions of dollars for the ratings dropping.
Third thing I said is why? Because that man probably got a daughter. You got a daughter and you see, just think about all of us, who we are as men. You brought up my mother, my upbringing, all this stuff. All of us as men. Just think for a second. Black, white, Hispanic, don't matter. You have a daughter and you see somebody else's daughter in a video being treated like that. What you want to do? One of the things that I get upset about.
Oh, yeah, Stephen A. A guy like you that's hooked up with everybody connected. You didn't know R. Kelly was doing that till he was arrested. Now he's the voice of righteousness. Stephen A. Smith, the fraud.
When the issue of domestic violence comes up, I get really, really upset when people act like most men would turn a blind eye and a deaf ear. Okay, that.
No.
Most men would be ready to kick a dude's ass.
100%.
If you saw a dude, if you could be walking down the street, and if you saw...
Adam wouldn't kick anybody's ass because he's a coward and he stands for absolutely nothing. So Adams, yeah, absolutely right. Adams' idols are the Tates, who are human traffickers, pimps, pedos, and crypto scammers, and are headed to prison. And literally, those are Sosnick's idols who he worships. And every time he hangs out with them, when he comes back to the show, he acts like them. And he's on the show called Women Bees and Hoes and all this. He thinks he's a pimp. Adam is just a total joke.
Or dude beating a woman's behind, you'd probably put yourself in danger to stop him because you know there's certain things you just don't do. And what I'm saying is, if you're a juror on the Diddy case and you've heard the testimony and you've seen it, you got to wait for the defense to make their case in fairness to him. And if he's innocent, you let him live. But the video that he has acknowledged he was in a very bad place, he was effed up and blah, blah, blah. And the testimony that piggybacked off that video from her on the stand, you ain't getting past. And I think that in jail or not, he's staying forever. And I personally have a hard time believing he's going to get off, because I believe that the jury is going to look at him and say, we don't give a damn about the sex trafficking and racketeering, the specificity of the charge. What we've heard and what we've seen, you deserve to be in jail. Knowing all of those things, I'm just saying, if you're going to make a decision to pardon him, if you're Trump, it needs to be because you think that the case wasn't strong enough. It don't need to be.
Here, well, let me give you some advice. When you do sports, instead of making it black and white and racial 24 hours a day, you should stick to sports. So let me give you some advice, since you're Mr. You're Mr. Know-it-all all of a sudden.
He was very nice to me. He used to be very nice.
Funny. These are two clips of Diddy, what he said about Trump. Here's what Diddy said about Trump.
This man is elected. We're not standing by no more getting killed. We're not scared of anybody standing up and standing by. We're
Charlemagne the fraud. I refuse to call Charlemagne the God, because he's a complete joke too.
on the verge of a race war.
A race war. The only person that's making or insinuating talking about race wars is Stephen A. Smith and you, Diddy.
This is when he endorsed Biden.
White men like Trump need to be banished.
What year was this?
That way of thinking.
2020?
So white conservative men that believe in God, the border, a low economy, putting America first, they need to be banished. And of course, Charlemagne the clown, he would agree.
It's real
White
dangerous.
men like Trump need to be
When you
banished.
look at
Banished,
it,
yeah.
we don't have no choice. You know what I'm saying? You can say
How come racist Ryan Clark and Stephen A. Smith don't call what just came out of Diddy's mouth racist? Oh, of course not. He can't be racist. It's impossible.
what you want about Biden. I can't say I love the pick either, but hey, we got to get him in office, and then we got to hold him accountable.
Don't you love these guys? They walk around and they think they're so much holier than everybody else. Their fake sense of morality. Look what Puff Daddy's been doing to human beings, and he has a problem with Trump. Trump puts Americans first and America first and puts everybody before him. He doesn't even take the presidential salary. He makes America better. He's risking his life. He's risking his health, everything. And these two clowns, Stephen A. Smith, Puff Daddy, Charlemagne the fraud, they somehow think that they're holier than President Trump. It's just total arrogance and narcissism to the highest level.
All right,
And
we
here's
can
the other
pause
one.
that. What's this?
Okay.
We're in a war. Number one, Trump got to go.
And then what?
Anything that's, that is about oppressing us and keeping us down.
I love black millionaires that talk about oppression and people keeping them down. If you were being oppressed, you wouldn't be a multi-gazillionaire, Diddy. Did I ever cross your mind? Of course not.
Nah, I want to break his neck. I want to run it out of town.
The only people who you can break their necks are women, Diddy, because you're a piece of garbage.
Have you ever interacted with him?
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah, I've seen him at a couple of events.
How was he with you?
Oh, he was always cool with me because he wanted to be an owner, an NBA owner. He was trying to become an NBA owner for the Charlotte Hornets.
Hornets.
Once Bob Johnson gave it up, and then Michael Jordan was obviously talking about giving it up. I mean, he definitely wanted in.
Interesting.
On that. The NBA had its reservations. I don't know why, but obviously one would deduce maybe some.
See, just another lie. He didn't know why the NBA didn't want Diddy. You're going to pretend you didn't know what Diddy was up to for 40 years, Stephen A. Smith, and you're plugged in with everybody, and you're going to pretend why you don't understand why the NBA didn't want anything to do with him. You're just a liar. That's what Stephen A. Smith is, a liar. But the PBD podcast, they can't figure it out.
Somebody knew something that we would ultimately end up finding out. And I don't know the answer to that question. What I would tell you is this, listen, as a black man, I'm going to tell you right now, and I don't know if anybody admits this, but let's talk about Trump for a second and what makes us uncomfortable. Policy-wise, we've complained about a multitude of folks in office. We complained about the Republicans, in fairness to y'all, and then a Democrat gets into office, and then we find out we had a whole bunch of complaints.
For any black person to have a problem what President Trump is doing right now for the country, you're just not paying attention, and you don't like him because he's rich, white, and straight. Because he's doing better than any president in the last 50 years. The economy for everybody, not just white people. He's making the entire country better, and this is just more ignorance from Stephen A. Smith. But I wouldn't expect anything less.
Except we complain about the Republicans before they get to the office.
Yeah,
we wait until the Democrats leave office to complain. You know what I'm saying? It's a double standard that needs to be fixed, no doubt about it. But what I've often tried to say to people, the Trump that I communicated with, I never viewed, never thought of as racist. What I think about him is opportunistic. He is the kind of individual that if you told him you can get everything you want if you appeal to these Democrats, but the Republicans are turned against you, he don't give a damn.
Isn't that so funny? He's calling President Trump an opportunist. That's what you are, Stephen A. Smith. You race bait all day so you can get a huge following. You're the opportunist. You're the predator. But this is what he does.
Democrats are what he needs to get what he wants.
Right, sure.
He's narcissistic like that. He's about getting.
There we go. He's calling President Trump a narcissist. He's the biggest narcissist on the planet. He literally thinks 24 hours a day on ESPN that the garbage that comes out of his mouth, he's never wrong about anything. He race baits 24 hours a day. He makes the program unwatchable, and then he acts like he's doing you a favor by letting you watch ESPN, watching him. He's the narcissist.
What he wants, what he believes is in the best interest, whether it's of himself, the country, or anything like that. That's how we who have experienced with him in the past, that's how we know him to be. The uncomfortable part about that is you don't get to look at that and then bring up racism because you don't like what he's doing. When you know he's opportunistic, if Trump, let's just say, for example, black folks was going to determine the outcome of the tariff war. And he had to go in and appease to a bunch of black people and alienate Hispanics and Asians or alienate the Jewish community or whatever. And that was going to get him what he wants. That's what he would do. That's the Trump I knew.
He is so full of shit. President Trump is one of the realest people to ever walk the face of the earth. He doesn't change for anybody. He says exactly how he feels, and that's why everybody loves him. And Stephen A. Smith's take on President Trump, he's just a complete moron. He's just such a lying, corrupt, racist moron.
That's the Trump a lot of people knew. And so we may not like it. There's a lot that I don't like about it, but I think it's real easy to just lean on that. And I think it's a mistake. Let me tell you something. I'm an ambassador for HBCU Week. I do everything that I can to contribute to historically black colleges and universities. There may be a point in time.
Yeah, except for give them money. You know, he's worth millions, but I guarantee he doesn't give $1.
I got to go and try to communicate with this man. How the hell am I going to do that? Oh, man, he's a racist bastard. He's a Nazi. He's this, he's that. But let me have my hand out for your help for the HBCUs. We got to think. We got to be.
But that's what the WNBA does, and you support them. You were just saying it prior on the podcast, how the WNBA is doing so well. That's exactly what they do. They call all these white men racist. They call all these corporations racist. They want to crap in everybody's mouth. And then they're like, oh, by the way, we want your money. If you don't give it to us, we'll call you racist again. Go figure.
Smarter than that. And we got to be bigger than that and understand in politics and in business and stuff like that, we're not going to always hear whatever we want to hear. We're not going to always get everything that we want. But the prize, the objective has to be bigger than us as individuals. We don't do a good enough job of understanding.
Stephen A., do you fear, when I've watched you 20 years?
Yeah.
And I've seen when the black community comes after you and it gets uncomfortable for you. You're very comfortable in every single situation I've seen you in, except when the black community comes after you.
Yeah.
And, part of it is I'm Armenian, I'm Assyrian, so I understand heritage.
Yes.
And this is who I am. This is my identity. I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a level of responsibility or fear where you feel like, hey, and when it comes down to color and it comes down to this, it's color before America. It's color before good policies. Do you see it that way?
No.
Or no?
No, I don't have fear is not the word.
Really? Maybe you should cover the NFL that way then, Steven. He's just so full of shit, this guy. He really is. Because if you watched him for 20 years, you would see that color with Stephen A. Smith dominates everything.
Not scared. What I would tell you is that when my own community has come after me in the past, it's hurt. There's genuine pain. Because I know how much I love my black people. I know what we've endured. I know what personal sacrifices I've made in my career just to help my community. And when that is ignored, when that is glossed over, when there's this pretension that it didn't happen, it hurts. Because it's like, wait a minute, I could have shut my mouth, kept quiet, collected the dollars, and been on my damn way. But I put a lot on the line by willing to put myself front and center to fight for these issues, because I know I never fight against my folks. When I'm sitting up there and I'm calling out folks within my community, I never call out because I don't speak for the whole community or whatever, but when I call out individuals with the mistakes that they make who emanate from my community, I'm not calling them out to condemn them. I'm calling them out to say, stop before you condemn yourself to a point that you can't return from. Because I want us to prosper. I want us to succeed. I don't want it to be at the expense of anybody else. I'm not anti anybody. But am I pro-black? Yes, and proudly so. I root for us. I want us to succeed. I want us to prosper. I don't want white folks to go broke. I don't want Benny to do worse than me. I just don't want to do worse than him. I don't want to do worse than Adam. I want to do worse than Brad. I want to do worse than Tom. I want to live just as well as y'all.
How about just be an individual and stop with all the group thinking? And nobody owes anybody else anything. We're all responsible for our own behavior and actions. And that's part of the biggest problem, is that nobody owes anybody else anything in this country. And a lot of people need to understand that. And that's what Stephen A. Smith should say. I don't owe anybody else anything. Yeah, I'm a black man, and obviously I want other black people to do well, but I don't owe you nothing. It's up to you to get an education. It's up to you to take care of your neighborhood. It's up to you to take care of your children. That's all you need to say. And if you were really honest and you really cared about black people as you claim, that's what you would say.
You sit up there in a private jet, damn it, I want to be a private jet. You got a Lamborghini, damn it, I want one. I want to be able to get one. I might not want that specific ride, but I want.
The hell's he talking about?
Everything anybody else would want. And so when I'm looking at us as a folk, as a people, I'm saying, I'm giving you a heads up. I'm hip to the game. I've been in corporate America for 30 years. I got a clue. I got an idea of how things are done, why they're done, the thought process behind it.
Really? You know how things are done? Because you're costing ESPN a lot of money with your garbage, but they still keep employing you anyway. You know why? Because you flip-flop on Democratic talking points, certain narratives. They want you to push the LGBTQ mafia on everybody and make them think it's okay. You fall in line with corporate America, so you're full of it. You're not there to help anybody. You're not really there to help your people. You get told what to say and you say it.
If I'm around Adam and Pat and Vinny and Tom, and there's an education that I'm receiving, I'm the type of guy that leaves from here and goes out into my community to say, you see the game they tipped us to? Now you're going to pay attention, or you're going to ignore it. Because guess what? Y'all ain't stupid. Y'all happen to have love for me, so you'll make me hip to something I didn't know. You're educating and edifying me in hopes that I will go out there and spread the wealth, so we have more people that are being like-minded, smart-minded, intellectual, thoughtful, calculating in how they go about doing things. So we can all benefit. But if I don't do that and I'm all about me, like some people are who will remain nameless in our industry, the no good bastards that they are. Okay, that's them. I'm not that guy. And so when I'm about that and I can point to what it has cost me in my career, endorsement dollars, contracts, all of this stuff, job opportunities.
I don't believe him for a second. I believe he puts color over everything. He's just full of it. Because if you watch the ESPN for 10 minutes daily, you could just see every word that comes out of his mouth. It's about race 24 hours a day.
Because I was outspoken, I was in your face, I was defiant, I had courage, I wasn't scared because I was thinking about more than just myself. And then my own community turns against me and you associates me with names like Sellout, Uncle Tom. Hell yeah, that shit hurt. It hurt for a long time. It's just that I recognized along the way.
You don't think that any other races go through that when they're successful, Stephen A. Smith? Every successful person goes through that and gets called names because people are hating on them that they're more successful. Has nothing to do with people or racism. Like, you're old and you should know the game by now. Nobody wants to see you as successful as you are.
Way that nobody was saying this about me when I was failing. Nobody was saying this about me when I didn't have shit.
It's always about the money, Stephen A.
They said it about me after I had ascended and while I was continuing to ascend. And sometimes that's the game. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
And you got to have the tough enough skin to take it. And I do.
And look, I mean, you know, Terrell Owens, Max, that whole exchange, you know, I can go back. One you did 18 years ago, 17 years ago. We're like, hey, pull up your pants, do this, do that. You know, maybe we got to vote Republican. Maybe we got, I don't know what. It was a small group sitting like 20 people sitting in front of you. And this other African-American man was asking you. It's like, hey, sometimes you say stuff. And no, I've been watching it for a minute. And I think the biggest part is sometimes I'm Armenian and I'm Assyrian. There'll be comments that will be made and say, oh, he doesn't support the Armenian thing. He doesn't support the Assyrian thing. I'm like, yeah, it no longer does anything to me. I don't feel I have to make the case to win you over every time. Because then that's a form of ownership you have on me, and I'm walking on eggshells. There's an Armenian, probably the most Armenian, not probably, he is the most Armenian successful man ever in business. He was the MGM guy. Who was the MGM guy?
Gregorian?
Kirk Kerkorian, right. At his peak, the guy was worth $10 billion. At 99 years old, he was still doing deals. This is who he was. What age did he die, Rob? Can you look up what age he died?
98.
98 years old he dies, right? This guy was doing deals to the very end. You know how much money he gave to Armenia? So much money. Eventually, he's like, one thing I learned, no matter how much I give, you can never win him over.
That's right.
No matter how much I give, you can never win him over.
Right.
I think that is a...
See, but I believe Stephen A. Smith already knows that, and he plays this stupid game, like when he has to flip flop or whatever angle he's trying to work for the day, because he's a compulsive liar. That's what he is. He's a compulsive liar. It's not about his people; it's about him.
Challenging thing to overcome. You do your best. You go about it, but if you constantly try to appease and conform. There's a form. No, I know you're not. I know you're not. What I'm saying is, if you do, I'm talking if general, not you. If general to everybody.
Yeah.
If you try to do that, you know that guilt, constant guilt. So you know, guilt is such a. Can you pull up Power versus Force, Rob? Power versus Force. You ever read this book?
I have not.
Power versus Force chart. Type in chart. Look what level guilt is. It says that the level to go at. If you look at the third row, go right in the middle where it says yellow courage. That's the first row where when you get to courage, your level of consciousness increases. Below it, it's pride, I'm so important, anger, desire, fear, grief, apathy. Guilt is the second lowest. And sometimes certain communities, they try to use that and it produces the worst feeling. Blame, destruction, evil, vindictive.
Look at what's near the top. Enlightened.
That's right.
And why is that so important? Because let me tell you something. So we're sitting here today, right? And all of us come from different backgrounds.
It's too much truth for Stephen A. Smith to handle. He's used to dealing in lies and manipulation. That's what Stephen A. Smith does.
I cannot tell you how much better my world got when I went away from this onus. I do feel this onus not to agree with my community, but to make sure that my community's voice is heard in terms of whatever their collective perspective is, so people will know. But I feel no obligation to agree with it. If I don't agree with it, I don't agree with it. Why? Because I have the faith in myself.
This is exactly what I mean. He just doesn't stand for it. He just flip-flop. He makes no sense. This is what he does on a daily basis. I don't know what game he's trying to play. He always plays the Mr. Self-Righteous game that he doesn't do anything wrong. You know, he calls everybody else a narcissist. That's what he is. He calls everybody else a racist. That's what he is. He's just he just lies. He's a 24-hour-a-day liar.
That I'm around the right people who give me a potpourri of thoughts. Adam is nothing like you. You know what I'm saying? Vinny and Adam might not be alike. Tom and Vinny might not be alike. All of y'all bring something. So me being around y'all edifies me. I don't think like Sean Hannity, but hearing him think, I have a clue as to who people like him think and why they think the way that they think, along with others. It could be a Cuomo, it could be a Bill O'Reilly, it could be a Mark Levin, it could be my boss, Jimmy Pitaro, or Dave Roberts, or anybody else. Learning from other people, I walk around edified because whatever decision I make, I know I was reasonable enough to listen and inhale and take all thoughts into consideration before I draw my conclusion. So even when you don't agree with me,
maybe you should. You're best friends with Michael Jordan. Maybe you should do what Michael Jordan does. He tells people flat out, I don't owe you anything. My mom and dad worked hard for everything they got in their life. So did I. I don't owe nobody nothing. And that's the rule that every race should live by. Nobody owes you anything. So Stephen A. Smith trying to play Santa Claus, trying to speak for an entire race, it's all BS. You know what? It's just BS to begin with. He's just full of it because he doesn't want to stand for anything.
you're not necessarily offended by it. And if you are offended, it's usually for a reason other than what it should be.
It's you,
which makes
not
it
you.
your problem.
Right, that's right.
Not mine.
There you go.
And that's how it goes.
And I think that's what we're going to finish it on. Gang, hope you enjoyed this conversation as much.
No, I didn't enjoy anything about this whole thing that Stephen A. Smith should run for president is complete garbage. I don't even know why PBD keeps pushing this. Stephen A. Smith, a lifelong Democrat who's voted for every single Democrat in the last 40, 50 years. You really think that he doesn't agree with what Joe Biden, Kamala Harris were doing? Of course he agrees with it. This is the only card left that he has to play. Now he's this big conservative. Give me a effing break. It's nothing but a con job. That's what Stephen A. Smith is. He's a con man, and I'm sick and tired of it. Thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasairos.